Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Good to see you all. So yesterday I started doing a bunch of radical new changes. I generally like the direction that those changes are going. And so today I'm just going to continue on with working on those changes. I think I was actually starting on some refactoring of some visual effects because I need to be able to select one of 3 cards after each combat encounter now, and I was just trying to streamline that, but I'm currently stuck on that, so we're going to see if we can get through that first. And then we're going to actually be building that flow for selecting one of 3 combat cards after combat, but I'll show you everything that's going on here in a second. Before we get into that, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. It's a dark fantasy inventory management roguelite auto battler where you can create your own synergies with the alchemy system. So if that sounds good to you, definitely check it out. You could also join the Patreon. If you subscribe at this $15 a month tier here for at least 1 month, you will get an Alchemortis Steam key sent to you when the game launches, and your name will be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So this is a way of supporting the game, supporting the development, but also getting your name into the game, and it acts as a pre-purchase as well. And I also have the Udemy courses available for sale. This is the online co-op multiplayer course, which will teach you how to build a complete online cooperative multiplayer game in Godot. So I've got a couple of other courses as well, but if you've been interested in learning how to use Godot, definitely check those out. And of course, every sale of a course helps me out greatly. And you can also join the Discord, that's totally free, and it's linked in the description below. And with all of that out of the way, let's get right into it. So one thing that I'm trying to do is, let me show you. I wonder if this is going to be broken. It's a little bit broken, but that's okay. So if I put a skeleton into an alchemy, or if I put any two cards into an alchemy here, all right, it's broken. Never mind. I'm in the middle of this refactor, but basically, when I have a board that offers you one choice of many, when you hover over a card, I want to dim all of the other cards, and that is very difficult for a number of reasons. And so I'm trying to refactor a little bit how the visuals work in order to make that a little bit easier. And that's what I'm kind of in the middle of here. Hello, Snupbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Always very generous, and welcome back to the stream. It's good to see you. Got the message, yummers. Welcome back, Snupbill. Always good to see you. And thank you again. So basically, I'm trying to get that card dimming to work. And right now, the way that the card dimming works, it's only present in the alchemy container. So this is why I kind of need to refactor it, because I need this to be supported in basically any board that I would want to use. But yeah, there's some weird stuff going on here. So basically, I'm drawing a bunch of card masks to the sub viewport here, and then I'm using a back buffer copy node here to copy the back buffer, to copy that region of the screen. And then what I do is I use the card masks that are drawn in combination with that back buffer to either draw the back buffer color or to draw a modified color with a slight fade out effect. So that is how it currently works. I'm trying to move away from viewports, and I've needed to make a couple of changes. So back buffer copies do not work if they are descendants of canvas group nodes. So this cards node here, which is where all the cards get placed on the board, this was previously underneath the fade group component. So I moved this out, and now I need to figure out how to actually get the card to work. So I've got this card, and I was testing some back buffer copy stuff, but basically what I need to do now is I'm trying to use the back buffer copy to basically get the card as drawn here. And then what I do is I take similar approach. I do a back buffer copy, and then I grab this color rect here, and I actually have a shader on this. And the shader has both the mask and the border mask texture. And the idea is that we take the back buffer copy color. If a pixel in that back buffer copy texture aligns with a pixel on the mask texture, then that represents a pixel that we want to change the color of. Any other pixel that does not align with the mask will be unchanged. That's how it's supposed to work in practice anyway. It is not working at all, and I do not know why. So there's something wrong with this back buffer copy. There's something wrong with the way this back buffer copy is working. I don't know if I'm using this wrong or what. For some reason, every time I use a back buffer copy node, it's always weird. It's never quite useful. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just going to do this. Let's go to the card here. Let's just run this. So I guess I don't understand how this works. Oops. I guess I don't understand how this works, because what should basically be happening is what I think should be happening is this color rect here should basically just be drawing a copy of the card, but that is not happening. That is not happening even in the slightest. It's not even happening a little bit. It's not even, it doesn't happen even subtly. There's nothing going on. And so I don't know what that is all about. And so, yeah, I really just don't know what's going on here. Card mute component. So one thing I could maybe do is see if this back buffer copy is like affecting something. I don't think so, because if I run this scene by itself, there's going to be no back buffer copy there. So I think what I should focus on is, if I'm running the scene by itself and I can't get it to work, then there's a big problem here. So yeah, basically what I should be seeing is that this texture rect, or not this texture rect, this color rect here, it should basically just be drawing a copy of the card. And that is not happening. If I use the viewport mode, I wonder what that would do. It doesn't do anything, okay. So, I mean, it could be an ordering issue. Like, that's why I was trying to test it. I copy those nodes, and I paste them here. Okay, so maybe that's better. See, but I'm not seeing a copy of that. It's kind of working here. Something is very wrong. What is that visual glitch? Yeah, the back buffer copy is like kind of weird when you're using it in the editor. And the documentation for the back buffer copy is not really that great, but the way that I understand it is, so what the back buffer copy node does is you can either copy the entire screen or you can copy a certain region of the screen. And what that does is that makes available to you through a shader whatever texture the back buffer copy copied. So if the back buffer copy copied the entire screen, then the entire screen will be available to you on the next hint screen texture in a shader. But if you have this set to a rectangular area here, then this hint screen texture is still available, but the screen texture that you get into the shader will only be the texture of that region. And so the processing order matters, because the next shader that uses the screen texture, the hint screen texture, after a back buffer copy has run, is the shader that will receive that texture. So the problem is, like, one thing I could try to, I'm using back buffer copies in other areas of the code here, but they're always under other canvas layers. And so I didn't see anything in the documentation about being unable to use multiple back buffer copies. But yeah, using a canvas layer there doesn't do anything. Well, what I can do is I could go to my game map and I can see what I'm doing here. So we've got the screen rect, color. Do I need to change the color here? I guess, let's see, color, turn that all the way down. I don't think that matters because the texture is overriding it here. Maybe I need to make the resource local to scene, I don't know. I mean, I will need to do that anyway, but... So yeah, I just don't know why this isn't working. Maybe... Let's do this. Color is equal to screen color. Yeah, I'm not even getting that. What happens if I do texture, screen texture, UV? Let's try that. Hello, Felsefe. Welcome, welcome. It may just not be getting the pixels rendered, like because you're using viewport scale mode. Well, I'm using back buffer copy successfully in other regions of the code, which is why it's confusing to me. But this is not even working here either. So does that mean the back buffer copy isn't working? Do I need to put this... I guess we could try putting this like out here somewhere. I don't think that's going to work because like the rendering order is the only thing that matters. And so this back buffer copy will be processed after all of these things, which means that it should be able to copy that stuff. And you can see it's kind of doing stuff in the editor here, but I mean, I also don't know if I'm supposed to be using screen UV. Doesn't say in the documentation which kind of UV I should be using. I don't think it's screen UV. Yeah, it's just not doing anything. Hello Neozoid, welcome. Back buffer copy broke, yeah. I'm kind of baffled as to why this isn't working. If I say color is equal to vec4 1.0, that does that, and so that should show up when I run this. Yeah, so the screen texture is just not coming in correctly. Maybe I just get rid of the filtering on it. I don't think that's going to do anything. Nope. So, yeah. This is where I got stuck last night, and I don't really know why I'm stuck. It seems to be the case that I'm using it correctly, or I'm using it how it's supposed to be used. And it just doesn't work. Let's do color is equal to vec4 0. What am I missing? What am I missing about this? Oh, we got some pixels being drawn up there. Look out, everybody. We got a handful of pixels there. I wonder, is it a UV problem? Oh. Let's do Vec 2.5. I wonder if it's a UV problem. Maybe my UVs are wrong. Okay. Maybe it's a UV problem. So that's good. So I've got a red square, and I'm using a UV of 0.02. So basically, if you think of going 2% down the texture and 2% to the right of the texture, so that would put me probably right on this corner somewhere, or maybe on the top side. Actually, it's probably, yeah, probably right on the corner. But that is not 2% of the way through the texture. This texture is only 18 pixels wide. And so if I were to move 1 pixel over, that is more than 2%, right? So I wonder if there's something weird happening with the UVs here, where the UVs, I was assuming the UVs would match. So the UV goes from a range of 0 to 1, from the left to the right, and then from the top down. And so I was assuming, well, if I have a texture, if I have a color rectangle here that has the same dimensions as this back buffer copy region, then that would, the UVs would just align. But I suppose it's possible that maybe it's possible that so maybe this texture from the back buffer copy UV would be in screen UV? But I feel like I tried that. Let's try this. Screen UV. Yeah, that's not right. Huh. What are you doing with screen copies? I'm trying to rework the way that card dimming works. So we're going to have two situations in the game now where if you will be presented a choice of one of many cards. So let's say one of 3. And when you hover over a card as a player, it needs to dim the other cards that you're not hovering. Right now, that's only in place in the alchemy board here. But now that we're rewarding cards after combat, I want to do something similar there. Which this approach that I took to doing the alchemy, it's a little bit messy, and it was kind of just like a way of working around some constraints I had with respect to my board and card rendering. So I'm trying to take a different, more generic approach wherein I can dim cards whenever I want. So what I'm trying to do is I restructured some of my scene tree so that I could support back buffer copy here. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm basically trying to copy all of this card art into the back buffer and then just basically draw that art right over top of it. But I can now apply a shader to everything as a group, essentially, to dim it. That's basically what I'm trying to do. So, yeah. Hello, Bubblegum Lord. Welcome back. I'm hearing the distinct sound of game development. Yes. Confusion and guesswork. From what I can tell, the pixels are just too small to be rendered. Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It might just be... because it kind of works in the editor here. It might just be a UV issue. Hello, Ollie. Welcome, welcome. Can you make the color correct scale 10 times bigger and then run? I could definitely try that, yeah. All of the greetings. Hello, VinTrixDev. Hello, V. Welcome back. I assume the original way was modulate. No, the original way was applying a shader to step through the color palette. And I still need to do that. Suppose that's a more efficient way to do it than using a sub viewport. Yeah. Yeah, it's more efficient. I mean, I don't think, you know, with this game not having any shading and just rendering very small textures, I don't think using sub viewports is going to make any noticeable difference. But the problem is it's not very portable. It's not easy to port that over to a different situation where I want to have dimmed cards, you know? Hello, Nicholas Dev. Welcome back. So we could try, let's see, color UV. Yeah, this is, I think it's a UV issue. I just got to wrap my head around what's happening with the UVs here, I think. Again, the documentation for back buffer copy is not that helpful. It's actually quite confusing, but we will try making this bigger. Okay. So yeah, it is copying it. It's just a UV problem. So now I gotta figure out what the heck is happening with the UVs. I don't remember doing anything special for any of my other... Oh, you know what though? Hold on a second. Yeah, I didn't do anything special for this guy here. My fade color rect. See, that's the thing, is I never had to do anything with respect to the UVs in any other situation where I've used the back buffer copy. So, oops, I'm in the wrong shader. Mute. I'm just messing around. I want to see what happens. Okay. And screen UV doesn't do anything, right? What happens if I do 640 by 360? So I do my entire screen size here. What does that do? Oh, I think it's going to be hard to tell now. Let's move this over. Okay. All right. So if my color rect is the entire size of my screen and I use screen, or if I just use UV, it works. Okay, so it is a UV issue. So the back buffer copy, it's only copying a region of the screen, but is it still using the entire screen size as the texture size? Is that what's happening? So it's copying the region of the screen, but it's still using it's still using the UVs as if they're on a 640 by 360 texture. So that's what's happening. That's a little bit concerning. Let me just check something really quick. Let me just check if this fade works at all. It doesn't. Oh, because I'm not. Hold on a second. I can put this back in place now. Put this back in place. I still don't know, but back buffer copy fixes most screen reading shaders I use. It should be better documented indeed. Yeah, I mean, that is an incredibly useful node, especially for like layering visual effects and stuff. So like there needs to be like a whole, I don't want to tell people what to do, but it would be very helpful if there was like a tutorial, like a whole dedicated documentation page of like how to use back buffer copy in different situations. UV times 5, math time, yeah. Good morning. Emerson, welcome. Try copy mode disabled. I don't know what that is. Copy mode disabled? It's still not dimming my texture though. Oh, because this... Shoot. Because the mask texture is going to have these UV issues as well now. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why is it still... No, that's right. In the back buffer? I mean, that's just not going to copy anything, right? Oh, oh, maybe that is it. Hold on a second. Is that what I did here? No, I'm using a buffer copy mode rect. Hold on a second. Maybe that's it. Let's see. Maybe that's it. And then at color rect, we'll use the 18 by 36. I think I'm still going to have a UV issue. This means that back buffer copy node will directly use the portion of the screen that it covers. I don't know what that means. I really don't know what this node does. I need to read the docs later. Hello, Games Sure Muxanu. Hi, how are you? I'm doing well. How are you doing? For a programmer like you, what part of game creation is most difficult? Like coding art? Definitely art, for sure. Definitely art. So if the thing I don't understand is I didn't need to do this. I didn't need to do anything with the UVs over here. The code itself is never really the part of the project that drives the enjoyment or revenue. It's just the means to an end to produce the product. I think that's generally true. I mean, I do enjoy building the systems for my game, especially when the systems are well built and they're easy to extend and modify and fix up. But yeah, the quality of your code does not matter really to an end user experience. You know, like you could have a spaghetti mess with 0 bugs, or you could have a beautifully architected system with 0 bugs, and both options are going to look exactly the same to the player. What is going on, everybody? What is going on, everyone? What are we doing? What are we doing here? So wait, I need to think about this some more. I don't want to get stuck on this for the whole stream, but I also think it would be really good to implement this. Oops. I'm in the wrong spot. Oh, was I in the wrong spot the whole time? Hold on a second. No, I tried this, right? Alright, get rid of that. See, I don't understand this. Like, for example, this copy mode disabled doesn't make any sense. Disables the buffering mode. This means the back buffer copy node will directly use the portion of the screen it covers. What does that mean? What does it mean to directly use the portion of the screen? Buffers a rectangular region. Anyway, this color rect here, 640 by 360. So the problem indeed looks to be that the back buffer copy is still using like screen UV. So I need to convert those UVs. I need to convert the UV from the screen space to like the proper texture UV. So how do I do that? Vec2 adjusted UV is equal to texture pixel size. Can I do like a size? Texture size, screen texture. Is this a Vec2i? Texture size. Hold on a second. Okay. Built-in functions. Built-in functions. Here we go. Texture size. iVec2. Okay, that's an iVec2. That's what I was missing. iVec2 adjusted UV. Invalid arguments for the built-in function. What? The screen texture is a sampler 2D. Why is that not working? Invalid arguments for the built-in function texture size. Oh, int, I need the level of detail. Right, 0. Okay, so that's the texture size. Undertale's code is messy AF and it's one of the most popular indie games. Yeah. Are you setting equal to screen UV anywhere? No, I don't think so. could potentially put screen UV in here. What would that do? Yeah, I think I just need to use the normal UV here. Or is that not possible? I think I just need to get the math down between converting from a 640 by 360 UV to a to this texture, the smaller texture size. Hello, Ito Makes Games. Float UV factor is equal to, would it be mask texture size dot xy vec2 invalid assignment of vec2 to float. Let's do vec2 UV factor. I don't think I'm doing this math right, but we'll see. So this should break if I did it correctly. Oh, it didn't break. Oh. What the heck? Just try something. I don't understand this at all. Oh, does this need to be reversed maybe? Let's see. UV times 10 instead. Now what in the heck, man? I don't know how to get this to work. I guess I don't really know what the problem is with the UVs. I'm having a big problem. When I turn on VSync, my game stutters. I'm having this issue since I got ultra-wide 160 Hz monitor on Christmas. Any other monitor works fine. I'm using Unity. Thanks for any help. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. Driving me insane. Do you have two monitors set up on your PC? I've heard of there could be issues when you have VSync on, but then you have two monitors that have different refresh rates. That can sometimes cause problems. I don't know if it's the cause of that problem, but Maybe somebody else in the chat can help you out. No, I don't have. Anyway, let's see. Am I doing this right? I wish I could just figure out. So if the UVs are expected to be aligned with the screen size, I need the UVs to be smaller because the UVs on the color rector, they're going to be 0 to 1, I think. So I actually need this to be something like, see, I can't even replicate it with just like a raw, like, division here. Okay, let's try this. Color is equal to texture, screen texture. Let's just do it at a basic level first. Okay, do divided by 10. Yeah, so I need these to be, this UV needs to be smaller. So I think my UV factor is just about correct. We'll do the mask texture size divided by the screen texture size. So if I do times UV factor here, what does that do? Okay, that's correct. So UV times UV factor, that's what I need. All right. So we've got that much working for us. So if I do UV times UV, oh wait, this is just going to be a normal UV here. The screen color, where is this screen color coming from? Screen texture UV. So maybe I need to put this UV factor up here. Let's do this. Grab these, put this UV factor up here. So grab the screen color UV times UV factor. Okay. So that's my screen color. So if I do this now, color equals screen color, and I run that, that's going to work. Okay. So let's comment that out. We're going to keep this UV normal. Okay. All right, so it seems to be working. Now if I take this progress value is not working though. Son of a biscuit. That progress value isn't doing anything. Final color. Oh, I have this, right. I have that hard-coded mask mix here. Okay. There we go. All right, we figured it out. Now, what's bothering me is I don't know why I needed to do that, or I didn't need to do that anywhere else, but anyway. So now we have the ability, oh, I can't show this at the same time. Anyway, you can see that the card is dimmed, and if I turn that up, yeah, the card is dimmed here. But I also want to dim the border, so I want to actually do this with the mask texture and the texture border mask texture. UV.A, and we'll just clamp this. Float min value. Or can I do a max? Or a min? Let's do min. Oops. Why is this not working? Oh, okay. So we're adding the mask texture only covers the interior of the card, but then the border covers the border as well. So I'm just going to sample both of those, get their alpha values, add them up, clamp them to 1. And what that should do is that should allow me to dim the border as well. So let's see. Yeah, so now the border is being dimmed as well. And if I turn this value down, we can bring it up. Okay, we did it. Oh, we did it. Oh my gosh. Whew, doggy. Is the Survivor's Course made in Godot 4? It is, yes. Imagine if shaders had hot reload. Yeah, I would love that. It's time for game dev once again. Welcome, Jackie Daytona. I posted about it on Reddit with profile photos, and there's no issue with any of my scripts. I don't have FreeSync on too. Also, it don't stutters in web version. So it stutters on the release version, is that what you're saying? There are some minor UI differences, mainly in the GPU particles, but I managed to figure it out. Oh yeah. Yeah, so the Survivor's Course was made right when Godot 4 came out. And so there have been several changes to Godot 4 since then. However, it's broadly still applicable. Hello, Clickertail. Can you explain what was going on and how you solved it? Yeah, so basically, even though this back buffer copy is set to copy just this region, which is 18 by 36 pixels, the UVs that So even though the back buffer copy is only set to this region, the texture size that is made available in this hint screen texture is still the same size as the screen itself. So that's 640 by 360. So I've got the size of what I want to render, which is 18 by 36, but the screen texture coming in is still 640 by 360 for some reason. So essentially what I need to do, and then another piece of information here is that this color rect, when I apply a shader to this color rect, the UVs are going 0 to 1 from left to right and 0 to 1 from top to down, and it's only an 18 by 36 color rect. So essentially what I have is I have an 18 by 36 texture here, but then I've got a 640 by 360 texture coming in the hint screen texture. So if I want to copy the card and what's rendered for the card over into this color rect, I need to translate the UVs from that 640 by 360 texture to the 18 by 36 texture. And what I did is I just used this UV factor. So I'm taking the texture size of my mask, which is 18 by 36, and I'm dividing that by the screen texture size, which will give me a factor in both the X and the Y direction. Then I need to multiply the UV to get the proper color from my screen texture, basically. So I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but again, remember this shader is being applied to the canvas, or being applied to the color rect. So this UV is going to be on a 0 to 1 range. However, when I'm sampling from the screen texture, which is 640 by 360, I don't want to use a 0 to 1 range, because when I say I want to sample a pixel on this edge of the color rect, it's going to end up sampling from like way over here on the screen texture, right? So I basically need to pull that screen texture coordinate back into the region that was copied. Now, I actually don't know if this is going to work, because let's say that I move the card off the origin. I don't know if it's going to continue to work. Yeah, and it has not continued to work. So that's a problem. I think unless what I might have to do is I might have to ensure that the back buffer copy node, so this is what I'm looking at on my screen. See how that's being cut off there? So when the position changes, it doesn't work. So maybe this back buffer copy node just always needs to be at the origin. See, I don't understand why this is... I don't understand why that's working that way. Someone from Unity staff commented and said I should use the CPU usage precise provider. Yeah, I don't know anything about Unity, sorry. I don't know how to help you. Hello, Courier Games. Good morning to you. Okay, so now why is this getting all frinked up? If I change this to disabled, what does that do? Same result. If I move this, if I move the card off the origin here. Oh, gosh. Fudge. Why is this so difficult? I'm just trying to do something very simple, Godot. Why are you making it so hard on me? Okay, so I think what I can deduce here is that this back buffer copy does not actually use its position at all. So I think if I were to move this, if I were to move the card off the origin here, this back buffer copy is essentially acting like it's still here. So what I should see is I should just see this very narrow sliver copied over to the color rect here. Yeah, and that's exactly what I see. So I think this back buffer copy, the position of this node actually doesn't matter. What matters is the rect that I've defined to copy. So that's a little bit annoying, but this card has an 11, let's just make it a 10x and 10y. If I change this x and y position here to 10x and 10y, and I do this, it still doesn't work. This node makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't make any sense. It just, am I going crazy, or does this not make any sense? I'm kind of lost now. Why is this not working? It's as if it's still using this top left corner. But when I change the rect here that it's supposed to copy, it doesn't work. I change this to disabled and move this here. Maybe the back buffer copy just isn't working. Maybe that's what I'm getting confused by. You know what? That's probably it. This hint screen texture that I'm using here, this is probably just using the screen texture. It's probably not even using the back buffer copy. Yeah, that's probably what's happening. So, yeah. So I basically just assumed that the back buffer copy was working, but it's not. Yeah, I don't think the back buffer copy is working. I bet you if I get rid of this, I'm going to see the same exact result. Yeah. So I was just using the normal screen texture. Why? What in the world? What is the point of this node, man? This doesn't make any sense. What is the point of this? I have the node in the tree. The region defined in the back buffer copy node is buffered with the content of the screen it covers or the entire screen according to the copy mode. It can be accessed in shader scripts using the screen texture, i.e. a uniform sampler with hint screen texture. So we go to screen reading shaders here. We open this up. Hint screen texture, special built-in varying screen UV can be obtained relative to the screen for the current fragment. Okay. When a hint screen texture is first found in a node that is about to be drawn, Godot does a full screen copy to the back buffer. Subsequent nodes that use it in shaders will not have the screen copied for them because this ends up being inefficient. In 3D, the screen is copied after the opaque. Okay, I don't care about 3D. As a result, in 2D, if shaders that use hint screen texture overlap, the second one will not use the result of the first one, resulting in unexpected visuals. In 2D, this can be corrected via the back buffer copy node, which can be instantiated between both spheres. Back buffer copy can work by either specifying a screen region or the whole screen. Okay, so back buffer logic. Here's how the back buffer copying logic works in 2D. If a node uses hint screen texture, the entire screen is copied to the back buffer before drawing that node. This only happens the first time. Subsequent nodes do not trigger this. If a back buffer copy node was processed before the situation in the point above, even if hint screen texture was not used, the behavior described in the point above does not happen. So wait, if a back buffer copy node was processed before the situation in the point above, the behavior described in the point above does not happen. In other words, automatic copying of the entire screen only happens if hint screen texture is used in a node for the first time and no back buffer copy node was found before in tree order. So the way that I'm reading that is there's a shader here. Let's see. I'm just trying to make sure. Maybe I can get rid of some of this stuff. Anyway, so the way that I'm reading that is the back buffer copy. So right now my color rect shader here is copying the whole screen. It's copying the whole screen because of this hint screen texture. So what I'm observing is that this first point is being applied. The entire screen is being copied to the back buffer. So that would explain why the texture size is 640 by 360. However, I have a back buffer copy here that gets processed before the color rect. And so that should mean that the second point takes precedence, which is that the screen should not be copied. Am I misunderstanding this? The back buffer copy is being processed first. I mean, I guess I can just try to change the order, but I don't think that's correct. Yeah, that's not anything. The only other thing I can think of is that maybe I have some, like I've got this canvas group here inside of this card background effects viewport. I don't know if that's maybe affecting it in some way. It doesn't appear to be, so we can put that back. Maybe what I can do is I can put this color rect out here and just see what happens. And my cat is going crazy now. What am I missing? What am I missing? I wonder if I can inspect. Let me see. If I go to my remote scene tree, I wonder if I can get any useful information out of the back buffer copy here. I don't think so. Oops, I changed the wrong thing. So yeah, I just don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm understanding the documentation correctly, but it's just not working. I'm gonna try something a little bit wonky here, but bear with me. I'm gonna create, let's add another color rect here. I wanna see if I can force the behavior to happen. So I'm gonna add a little test screen copy. Add a little test screen copy there. We're gonna go to my material. We'll create a new shader material. Create a new shader. We'll just make it a built-in shader. We'll edit this. We'll do uniform sampler 2D, screen texture, int screen texture. So we'll force an entire screen copy. I actually don't know if I need to do anything here, but we'll force an entire screen copy, and then we'll turn the back buffer copy on, and then we'll do this color rect here. Okay, see, that looks radically different. And now I bet you I don't need that UV factor anymore in here if I want to use this. So let's get rid of that UV factor. Oops. I don't like when that happens. The page up button is right next to my backspace button, so like sometimes I hit page up and it sucks. Anyway. Do UV here. Okay. Scroll down. I don't think I'm using the UV factor anywhere else. So let's give this a shot now. And just make sure that my regions are all correct here. Okay. Something's broken. I don't know. Hello, Evan. I've been trying out Starbaders lately, and it's fun with shader coding. Welcome back to the stream, Evan. We're trying to do shader coding. It's not going very well. I think there's some kind of weird quirks about how Godot is working here. I guess what I could do in the screen copy here is maybe I do need to do this. Actually, what happens if I get rid of that? Okay, no. Color is equal to texture, screen texture UV. Do I need to use screen UV? Yeah, screen UV. And then we got the back buffer copy here. Okay, it's still a problem. Yeah, I don't know. This is just not working. I feel like I'm understanding how the back buffer copy works, but then there's like some undocumented weird quirks or bugs or something that are afflicting me. What am I going to do about this? Why is this so difficult? Might need a different approach for this. Maybe also look at the WebGL documentation. I don't think that's going to help. The problem is I just don't think the back buffer copy is working. At least as the documentation describes it, it's not working. At least as the documentation describes it, it is not working. So, yeah, I don't really know what to do about this. See, this is what happens. You guys wanted to have a choice of one of 3 cards in the combat output. And now I've been stuck on this shader issue for 3 hours. I did it. I worked on it for a couple hours last night and just couldn't figure it out. So I think we're going to need to take a different approach to this. I don't have many options though. This rendering stuff, there's a lot of constraints. What are you trying to achieve? Just trying to dim or mute the cards in a... Like if you have a choice of one of 3 cards, trying to mute or dim the other cards when you hover over one. All that logic is fine. It's just trying to get the rendering to work such that I can dim a card is, yeah, it's a little bit tricky. Trying to introduce myself into game development. Can you give me any tip, maybe any course or something? Yeah, I mean, it depends on if you're, I think the advice kind of differs based on if you have programming experience or not. If you don't have any programming experience, then the difficult part of getting into game development is you have two steep learning curves. You have the learning curve of understanding programming concepts, and then you have the learning curve of using the engine. So if you don't have any programming experience, it could be helpful to just do like a programming crash course so you can understand functions, variables, arrays, dictionaries, that kind of thing, so that you come into game development with a little bit of understanding of programming. And if you already have programming experience, then yeah, there's all kinds of free tutorials on YouTube for how to use Godot, how to use Unity, whatever. You can check out those free tutorials. I also have courses you could check out if you're, so if you have programming experience, you could check out my Godot courses if you're interested. I don't cover programming concepts in those courses, but I do cover the Godot engine, and I ease people into how to use the Godot engine, how to navigate it, so on and so forth. Won't dimming the cards break the color restrictions? You are restricted to witching hours palette. Yes, that's why I have to apply a shader to the dimming, which will step through the colors of the palette. So when it dims, it's not changing, it's not doing opacity, it's not overlaying a color, it's actually changing the color of each pixel to the next darkest color in the palette. And this is also why I can't do an overlaid color rect and dim that, because that will create different colors that are not in the color palette. Yeah, modulate won't work. You're welcome, Jassy. You're welcome. Modulate won't work. Overlaying a color rect and just dimming that won't work. It has to be a shader that modifies it. And the reason why I need to use the back buffer copy is because all of these elements need to be changed at the same time. These are all independent elements, right? This sprite here needs to be dimmed. The card turn indicator needs to be dimmed. The enchant effect needs to be dimmed. So all these things need to be dimmed together. So that's why I was trying to use a back buffer copy, because I essentially can, or I should be able to get all of those as a single texture, and then I can dim all the pixels in that texture with a shader. But that's not working. The back buffer copy just doesn't work as far as I can tell. I'm just completely baffled because I used the back buffer copy in several other places and it just doesn't. It doesn't. It works the way that I would expect it to work. So I don't know what's going on here. I mean, maybe it could be this viewport related. I don't think so, but we can do this, get rid of that. Could be that the sub viewport here is messing things up. Maybe not. I mean, I have another option I can take. I just don't know if I want to do it. Changing it to a 1-bit sprite would work. Could a sub viewport be used? Yeah, I could. I would have a sub viewport for every card, though, in the game, and I don't know. It probably would be fine, but I do already have a sub viewport for these cards too, but this sub viewport is disabled under the majority of circumstances. This is only enabled when I have like the legendary effect going. So the problem is grabbing the color output from each component. Yes. Do you want to tint them all with the same value at the same time or independent from each other? All of the pixels will change into different colors depending on what their existing color is. We cannot do card flipping, right? No, we cannot. What to do, what to do. What to do, what to do. Texture, screen texture. Yeah, this is just not working. I'm reading the documentation, I've reread it 5 times. I'm understanding what the documentation is saying, but the back buffer copy is not working in the way that the documentation says it should. So either the documentation is lacking some critical detail, or I've misunderstood the documentation, or there's a problem with back buffer copying. It just doesn't work for whatever reason in this situation. What happens if I get rid of the back buffer copy? Automatic copying of the entire screen only happens if hint screen texture is used in a node for the first time and no back buffer copy node was found before in tree order. So what that tells me is that this back buffer copy is before this color rect in tree order, which means that this screen texture should be the region copied by the back buffer copy, but it's not. This screen texture is the entire screen texture. So like, according to this line of documentation, I am using this correctly, and it just doesn't work. So I think that there's a problem here. There's a problem somewhere, obviously. There's a problem here somewhere. Thank you, Evan. Thanks for joining. Would you share that shader on Discord? I could help. I don't think it's a shader problem. I think the back buffer copy is the problem, because I'm using that exact shader elsewhere with back buffer copies. I think the back buffer copy needs to be the parent node. I tried that. It doesn't work either. And it doesn't matter because the documentation says before in tree order. So, it could either be, this color rect could either be a child or a sibling that comes after the back buffer copy. In both cases, the back buffer copy is before in tree order, so it doesn't work. So yeah, the shader is not the problem. The problem is that this screen texture is not, it's not what it should be, according to the documentation. This screen texture ends up being the entire screen, no matter if I have the back buffer copy here. Go to project settings, rendering. Let's see. Rendering. Where to next? Where to next? Screen texture? Oops. There's no screen texture here. Do you know where it is? I don't think there's going to be anything in these settings, honestly, that's relevant to this problem. Yeah, I don't think there's anything relevant in there. Okay, well, I have a different approach that I want to try. And we'll see how that goes. I'm just kind of hesitant to do it that way because that introduces new limitations. Basically, what I could do is I could wrap this stuff in a canvas group instead of using a back buffer copy. And that is going to be a problem. Is it going to be a problem? Let me see. There's one situation which I'm not sure about. Add blood. Let's see. Calculate. Here we go. Cell card. Find all references. Is this never used? Find all references. I guess this is never called. Calculate sell price. Player inventory. Fade group component, instance scene or null, card node to global position, fade group component. Okay, so I'm going to need to redo this as well. So the problem is if I make the card have a canvas group in here somewhere to group all these things together, I will be able to do the fade that I'm looking for. However, I will never be able to use a canvas group and have a card as a descendant of that canvas group again, because canvas groups cannot be nested at all. So that is another limitation that's introduced by the canvas group, which is why I've been hesitant to use it. But if I do use a canvas group, it's going to make this much easier. I'm going to have to deal with that limitation now of the cards can never be nested under other canvas group nodes. So that means, and I'm going to have this problem anyway, but that means, like, for instance, if I want to fade an entire board out, right? what I need to do is I need to fade the board out art with a shader and a tween, and then I need to fade each individual card out as well using the same parameters, the same timings and everything, which will work. It's just there's a little bit more coordination that needs to happen there. I can't do it all as like one unit, but I think that's probably going to be the way that I have to go just to get unstuck from this issue. I can revisit the back buffer copy issue later, I suppose, but right now I'm interested in getting this to work. So we're going to give that a shot, and we'll see what happens. But first, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we will try that approach instead. I'm much more confident in that approach because I know canvas groups work very well in my experience. So I just wish I knew why this back buffer copy wasn't working. That's the thing that bothers me the most, really, is like, I feel like I'm understanding the documentation properly, and I know what the problem is, and it's just the back buffer copy is not behaving in the way that the documentation describes. So I wish I knew why that was, but oh well, we're gonna have to drop it. Anyway, I'll be right back in 3 minutes, and we will continue on with that new approach. All right, hello everybody, welcome back. I hope you are having a good morning. I hope your morning is better than mine. These dang shader issues. It's okay, it's all part of game development. Every once in a while you get to those situations where development is going good, it's super fun, and then you hit this one brick wall issue that just stumps you for like 5 hours. And that feels not so great, but there is always a solution. And so we are going to figure that out. But first, I'm going to delete everything. Do I even want to keep any of this stuff? It may be useful. I want to stage that because that's useless. We don't want the card mute component. We don't need these shaders. We need to keep the board changes here. Card changes don't need to stay. Alchemy container changes definitely don't need to stay. These script changes don't need to stay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close all these things. We will delete these changes. Goodbye. Okay, so now we go back to the board here. Close all of these. Clean that up. Okay, so now if I go to my board. Okay, so previously the way that this board was structured is that this fade group component here, the cards node was underneath the fade group component. But I moved those out because I don't think back buffer copy works as a nested child of canvas group either. And so I moved that out when I was using that different approach, but this is still going to be useful. So we're going to keep the cards apart from this canvas group here. And then we're going to put a canvas group in each individual card scene under this scale root here. And then this is going to give me the ability. Now, the one thing that I don't know, I think the viewport should be fine, but we're going to put all this under that canvas group there. And we'll go ahead and access that as a unique name because I think I may need to reference it. But I already have a fade shader. So if I search for a canvas group fade here, I can go ahead and put this material onto this canvas group here. So we'll do this canvas group fade. And then if I go into here in the shader parameters and I change this, that's going to be able to fade that whole card as a unit. So again, I already have that built out. That works just fine. The problem being though that no card can ever be a descendant of a canvas group now, which I think is going to present some problems with some of my existing code, but we will figure out a way around that as well. In any case, so let's handle the immediate need here first. Well, let me just see one thing first. I just want to make sure that if I run the game, all of my cards look okay. We're going to do that first. Okay, all of my cards look fine. Now the other problem though is that I don't know how performance intensive a canvas group is because it does use back buffer copying under the hood. So if I've got, 25 cards on the screen, is that going to present a problem in terms of rendering? So we'll have to keep a careful eye on that. I mean, it wouldn't be any really all that different from the back buffer copy approach either. So we're going to go forward. I mean, we'll just go forward with it and see what happens. I don't think there's basically nothing I can do in this game that is going to hit performance that hard. So I'm just going to go forward with it and see if it works. And if there are performance problems, then we'll figure out how to deal with those, I suppose. But yeah, anyway, we'll go ahead and do that. So we got the canvas group set up and the cards appear to work normally. So the first place that I'm going to refactor before I work on the combat card rewards is we'll work on this alchemy container here because, oh, so we've got the dimming here, but that dimming is being done with a different approach using a sub viewport and some masking and stuff. But as you could see, the cards disappeared when I The cards disappeared when I alchemized them. So let's take a look at the alchemy container and see what exactly is going on there. So if I go to alchemize, alchemy container, I actually don't remember where I need to do this. Let's see. Animation card root. What is my animation card root? Yeah, so here's a problem. This animation card root is nested under this visuals here, which is a canvas group. So those cards disappear immediately upon being added to that root. Is there a reason why the cards need to be in that? Is there a reason why this needs to be a canvas group? I guess that's a better question. I think at one point, this play fade out here, this is no longer used. So when the alchemy used to be an event, I needed to fade out everything together. However, that alchemy no longer fades out, it's permanent. So I actually don't need this to be a canvas group. So we can just go ahead and we can clear the material from here. Oh, it doesn't even have a material on it. So we'll just change this type here to a node 2D. And that should fix that issue. Ain't that the truth? Yeah. Hello, @4zik. Welcome. Good to see you. All right, so we do this. We should see that these are working properly. Oh, and the outline shader is not working on the pot anymore. Oh, interesting. So I actually needed that to be a canvas group. Okay, so now we're back to this issue. Oops. So I'm already stuck. So the problem here, let me just do this. So the reason why I need to add these to this animation card root here is because the cards are going to go in here. They need to go above the back part of the pot, but then into the liquid, right? So the tree is set up to allow that kind of render order. Now the problem though is that I need this all to be wrapped in a canvas group so that I can outline it all as a unit. So if I'm not using a canvas group, I can't apply an outline shader to everything as a unit. Oh, looks like I'm going to be stuck on this issue for longer than I thought. So you see how the outline here, the outline applies to the pot as a unit. So you can see that the spoon that's in here is not outlined independently of the rest of the sprite. It's being outlined as a part of that group. So that's why that needs to be a canvas group. And as far as I'm aware, there's no way that I can like change the render order of the cards independent of this of this tree. Like I couldn't just put the cards like somewhere else, like under another node 2D out here outside of the canvas group here. And then somehow make this test card. Why is that not working? Oh, because I put it. So I can't somehow make this test card able to go in that draw order that I showed you earlier. Okay, well, this is not going to work either. Unless I could think of another clever solution for this, but I don't think so. So yeah, I'm already running into problems with this. Well, the unfortunate thing is I may actually just need to use the approach that I'm using for this already for any situation where I need cards to be dimmed, which is kind of yeah. That may be what I have to do. So I have a weird system going in place, but basically what happens is I create a sub viewport where I draw all the sprite masks, which are just white rectangles. So I take a mask viewport, I fill the background with black, and then I draw all of the card masks, which are these rectangles. This is a card mask for a 1x2 card. I draw all those against the black background, and then here's the back buffer copy, which works here. I use the back buffer copy to copy the board region essentially. And then what I do is I apply a shader that I was trying to apply earlier, which is just taking the mask, the viewport texture, and it's taking the oh wait, maybe that's not. Wait, am I not using this back buffer copy at all? Hold up a second. Oh, no. Yeah. So this card mask fade GD shader, this is reading the screen texture, which is coming from the back buffer copy. And it's also taking the mask texture, which is this viewport texture. And then if the pixel is black, it will just render the direct color from the back buffer copy. And if the pixel is white, then that is a region that needs to be dimmed in accordance with the progress value on the shader here. So really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this behavior to work in any situation where I need it. So the solution here may be just to, the solution may be to just take these nodes and kind of like put them into some kind of component that I can add to a board if I need individual card dimming capabilities. But I don't like this approach either for a couple of reasons. One reason is that it doesn't, if the cards are being animated onto the board, the mask sprite doesn't also animate its drawing position. So you could get a weird situation where, like, as the card is animating and you hover over a card, like half the card will be dimmed and the other half will be unshaded because only the half of the card that overlaps with the mask that's drawn onto the mask sprite will be changed. So, fudge. I'm in a little bit of a pickle here. Someone posted on GitHub about the issue you're having. Check it out, your Discord. I shared it working on my end. Interesting. Let me check it out. I mean, I might not be able to read it all through it now, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this right now on stream. Yeah, so that, I don't know how you implemented that, Charles, but The problem with my dimming is that it has to go through a color palette change. The rule for this game is that every pixel that gets rendered to the screen has to be one of the colors that's in my color palette. So it's not as simple as just dimming the entire thing. I need to actually change the pixel color so that it is one of the pixels in my palette. So it's not a matter of changing the modulate. I can't do that. That's not an option. I need to apply a shader to change the pixel colors to a color that is in my color palette. Hello, Pocket Pixie. Welcome back. This is not a new game, no. Still working on Alchemortis. Hello, Darag. Oh, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Okay, well, let's go on a little adventure here. Let's see if I can genericize this approach so that I can put it on any board that I want to use it on. This is going to be a little bit tricky. What type of game is this supposed to be? Oh, you could check out the Steam page for a full description, but it's a grid inventory management auto battler with alchemy, where you can merge abilities from some cards onto different cards and create your own synergies and all that stuff. I love your tutorial. It's helping me a lot understand the UI and docs of Godot C#. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that, Pocket Pixie. Okay. It is time to embark on an adventure. I might actually take a different approach to this, because I'm actually using the custom drawing functions here to draw the mask textures to the to that sub viewport, but it may be easier. Okay, let me just break this off into a separate scene here. Oops, I almost closed OBS. That would have been... Oh no, I closed my social stream dock in OBS. I can't highlight things anymore. How do I... Can I undo that? Custom browser docs. Here we go. Apply. Where did I put it? Uh-oh. Here we go. I got it back. I got it back, but I lost my message history. Hello, Ninja Link. Welcome back. Good to see you. Derek says, I'm new to Godot and just game dev in general. Would you have any tips for me? Yeah, so there's lots of free content on YouTube, lots of free tutorials. If you are new to programming, I would recommend at least doing some kind of programming crash course, or like watch a 2-hour YouTube video on the programming fundamentals. So get some familiarity with programming, because the reason I recommend that is because if you're trying to learn programming and game development at the same time using an engine, you have 2 learning curves together that make it a little bit extra hard to learn what's going on. Like, you don't want to be learning how to use the engine and also struggling with programming concepts, because that creates a lot of unknowns at once that are kind of like hard to manage. Now, your mileage may vary. You know, maybe you're a particularly intelligent person and that doesn't present much of a problem for you. But for a lot of people, that's it adds an extra bit of learning curve. So if you can learn programming fundamentals first, like what a function is, what a variable is, arrays and dictionaries and all that stuff, and you can get a good grasp of that, then you can focus more of your effort on actually learning how the engine works and how to get sprites to render, how to get the gameplay scripting to work, input handling, all that stuff. But yeah, there's tons of resources on YouTube. You can check out Heartbeast, GD Quest, and there are definitely Godot course creators that will teach you programming at the same time as Godot. I think GD Quest is one of those. But then other than that, the only other tip I have is you just have to practice. You have to have patience with yourself. You have to understand that you are going to hit roadblocks very frequently. You are going to have many moments early on where you're like, why doesn't this work? What am I doing wrong? And that's totally normal. You shouldn't be discouraged by that because that's just part of learning. And yeah, I guess that's it. Will you be creating another tutorial but involving 2.5D and RPG elements? No, I don't have any other tutorials or courses planned at the moment. My entire focus is on finishing Alchemortis. Okay. So we've got the card dimmer component here. We are going to take the mask viewport, I probably don't need that fade color rect container break. Oops. Put this up here. Okay, and then we'll take this alchemy container here. We're going to delete all of these. I'm going to put this board card dimmer component on the board itself. And then we're going to go to the alchemy container here. And we are going to delete back buffer copy, mask sprite, mask viewport, and fade color rect. Because that will inform all of the places that we need to teleport over, that we need to translate over. Now, this is the one thing that I don't like this process here, because this is calling mask sprite Q redraw. So I don't need these lines anymore because the component is now going to inherit the transforms. We do need to change the mask viewport size, the mask sprite region rect, fade color rect size, and also the back buffer copy rect. This, we're not going to use this anymore. I think I'm going to take a different approach to that. Okay. All right. So now we'll go to this card dimmer component here. I'm going to add a script to it. Create this guy, game.component. All right, we need to get a reference to all those things. Mask viewport, mask sprite. Do I even want to use this mask sprite anymore? I don't think so. I was doing something weird with this. I think I'm going to get rid of that. We're going to take a different approach to that as well. Okay, so hopefully this will actually simplify things quite a bit. Private sub viewport, mask viewport, back buffer copy, and fade color rect. Node private back buffer copy, node fade color rect, or no, we'll just do color rect, fade color rect. We are also going to get rid of this fade color rect material. We're going to put that in here now. Fade color rect material, public override void ready. What we want to do in here is we are going to, by default, we're just going to set visible equal to false, which I think should disable everything. And then we're going to say fade color rect material equal to fade color rect material as shader material. Okay. The other thing that we want to do is we want to do var owner is equal to owner as board. owner dot, let's see. I'm going to create another method, update, private void, update regions. Owner dot board inventory component dot grid changed. I think, let's see. Yeah. So we're going to connect to the grid changed on grid changed here. Private void on grid changed. We're going to call update regions on grid change. Okay. And that should be fine. So inside of update regions, this is where we want to copy. Look at this. This is where I'm going to want to copy all of this stuff here. So we'll grab all these, paste that in there. Probably do want to just store the owner here. So we'll do private board owner. Okay, owner. Game constants dot tile size. Mask sprite dot region rect. So this is no longer necessary. Okay, and this mask viewport, this, where is this render target? Clear mode, update mode. We'll set the update mode to disabled, and I'll just do that redundantly here. Mask viewport dot update, render target update mode is equal to sub viewport dot render update mode disabled. So we're gonna need a way to actually enable this whole dimmer component. So I'll just do a public void enable. And in here, we'll set visible to true. We will also set that mask viewport dot render target update mode to always. So we basically just don't want to be using up resources related to rendering if we're not actually using this component. So in the vast majority of cases, the board should basically just never use this component and nothing should update. But then when we enable it, that's when we're going to want those things. Okay. Let's get rid of this process. So this is where I'm going to need to callable drag began. Where is this set? On card drag began. Fade card selection out. So probably want to move a lot of this over as well. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Yes, exactly. Do you know the way? Oh, that's an old meme. My goodness. That is an old meme. Yep, I was there when the meme magic was written. I'm just trying to think of what the best approach here is for this. So I need to get the card masks drawing onto that sub viewport. So basically what I need to do is private void initialize card masks. We're going to need a method like that. And then we're also going to need one that's like add card mask. Private void add card mask. And then we need a private void remove card mask. So in here, what I'm going to do is do for each var card in owner.board inventory component, get cards on board. We are going to do add card mask in here, and we're going to pass in that card. This will accept a base card. In here, what we're going to do is we're going to say var card sprite, or let's do mask sprite. Mask sprite is equal to new sprite 2D. We're going to do texture is equal to card registry dot get card mask. And we are going to need the occupied cells. I forgot how this works. Absolute occupied cells. Okay. So card.card definition resource.absolute occupied cells. The position here is going to be a little bit tricksy, actually. I probably want to use a remote transform 2D. Pushes its own transform 2D onto another node 2D derived node. Okay, maybe that's not going to work. We may need to do a process method in here. Mask sprite, texture. We're going to do centered is equal to false. Is it centered? I guess we'll figure it out. Centered equals false. Okay. Then we're going to do mask viewport dot add child mask sprite. We're going to probably change this as well. We're going to do a transparent background. So instead of black, we'll do transparent. And we're also probably going to need to relate cards to... We're going to need to relate cards to these sprites. Private dictionary base card to sprite 2D. Card to mask sprite. We can make this read only, I suppose. Card to mask sprite. Card is equal to mask sprite. We're going to do set process to false here. And let's do public override void process. When we enable it, we're going to set process to true. And we're also going to call update regions. And we are also going to call initialize card masks. Okay. Now in the process method, what we're going to need to do is basically just iterate over every... is that what I want to do? Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, there's a ton of things to do here, but let's just see if we can get this working. We need to do a public void disable. Disabled. For each mask sprite and card to mask sprite values, we're going to queue free all those. Set process to false. Okay, I think that works. Now in the process method, for each var sprite, maybe a key VP in card to mask sprite. Okay. I still love 9 cat. My enter key has been acting up lately for some reason. Not sure if this is something you'd be willing to discuss, but I'm curious what made you leave the software dev industry in pursuit of game dev, and how do you feel about the decision right now? Well, it wasn't really a decision. I've told this before, but I lost my job at my previous software engineering position, and rather than try to go find another job, I decided, well, now is a good time to try this full-time game dev thing. So that's what I did. But it wasn't like I had a good job and then I decided to quit it and leave. It was mostly like the opportunity presented itself. And so I decided to give it a shot. And I'm enjoying it. I mean, at the very least, it's been nice to take this year and some months off, almost a year and a half off of professional work to just kind of do my own thing. But as of right now, it's not sustainable. And so depending on how Alchemortis goes will determine whether I go back to the workforce or not. But for now, we don't need to worry about that. Do not cite the old memes to me, pleb. I was there when they were danced to on TikTok. Yeah, that's hilarious. Right on. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, you're welcome. You are welcome. So yeah, we'll see. I think, you know, I should be. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I'm not. The thing is that, and I said this before too, is that I think it's a very unwise idea to have just like the money in your savings account and then quit your job and go for full-time game dev, especially if you've never even sold a single copy of a game before. The reason why like this whole enterprise for me is relatively riskless, because during my time as a software engineer, you know, I built up not just like my liquid savings, but I have investments as well. So what I'm basically doing is I'm using my liquid savings as just like my play money. I know that sounds kind of crass, but that's the money that I'm using to sustain my development in addition to my Udemy income and all that stuff. But if that dollar amount ever hits zero, I'm not going to touch my investments. The investments are there as a backstop. They're there to make sure that I can pay all of my bills, even if I have no money, like liquid cash. But I'm effectively treating that money as if it's untouchable. So if the money that I have in my bank account goes to zero, that means that this whole effort is done and I will go back to working. But it's not like when my bank account hits zero, now all of a sudden I can't pay my bills and I can't pay my mortgage and now I'm like scrambling. So that's what I mean by it's relatively risk-free. It's like there is no situation in which I will not be able to pay my bills. And that takes a lot of the stress off. And it makes this whole process a lot more enjoyable because my livelihood does not really depend on me making a successful game. That's something that I want to do, but it's not like do or die. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm kind of in a I don't know if it's a unique situation, but I'm in a situation where like this is not going to be, you know, life ruining, you know what I mean? If it doesn't work out. Yeah, I hope Alchemortis sells 100,000 copies. I hope so. Yeah, TikTok is pure trash. Hey, I have some Alchemortis videos on TikTok. You take that back. You take that back. No, I'm not a TikTok consumer either. I do everything in my power to avoid watching short form videos, but I have produced some short form videos and probably will continue to do so, but yeah, I'm not a fan of... If everyone was like me, YouTube Shorts and TikTok would just not exist because it wouldn't be profitable at all. But thankfully, everyone is not like me. That would be a very boring world. TikTok is awesome, yeah. I mean, I you know, to each their own, you know. If you like TikTok, then there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Short-term content is really the meta right now because people have no attention span. Yeah. I mean, there is something to be said to, like... Oh, maybe we should get back to work here, but... You know, constraints breed creativity, and I think that if you're making long-form YouTube videos, it's very easy to get in a situation where you're not really saying anything useful, or you add a bunch of fluff that doesn't need to be there, or you repeat yourself a bunch of times. And something about short form, you know, the limited time you have really causes you to focus your content. And so I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if people don't want to sit through a 10-minute YouTube video, not because they don't have the attention span, but because the, you know, 8 minutes of the YouTube video is basically just nonsense that doesn't need to be said. And so if you've got a short form content, it really causes you to like focus in and condense the point that, or the thing that you're trying to convey in a much more succinct and like punchy way. So I'm sure that's part of it. The other part of it too is like, yeah, you just like do a bunch of jump cuts and like add a bunch of sound effects and make it super like clickbaity and whatnot, but I don't know. YouTube Shorts is a lot better than Instagram. TikTok is generally a reflection of the YouTube long form stuff you watch, so I see more relevant, meaningful content. Yeah. TikTok, Insta, Defo trying to push you down certain funnels of content to effectively rage bait you. Yeah. And that's the thing with YouTube too, is like the majority of people, if you put out a 10-minute video, the majority of people only watch like 2 or 3 minutes anyway. So if you could just make a 2 to 3 minute short form video and get a much higher watch time as a percentage of the video length, that's effectively the same thing, right? And it may actually be even more beneficial. I'm just thinking from like a devlog perspective. Like if I can condense a devlog from 10 minutes into 2 minutes, and people only watch 30% of the 10-minute video, but they watch 80% of the 2-minute video, then I'm actually able to communicate more about my game via the short form than the long form. So there's like pros and cons to it for sure, but it's a different way of thinking about it. There's certainly something to be said about streamlining content, but frankly, many people just can't focus on anything anymore. Yeah, I mean, that is true for sure. I miss the days when YouTube would give me a new set of videos to watch every time I refresh the homepage. Now it just gives me the exact same video many times in a row instead. Anyone remember the early days of YouTube when you could like totally customize your channel page? It was kind of like MySpace where you could like put images on your channel and change all the colors of your channel page and everything. That was kind of cool. I don't know why your comment made me think of that, but recommendation systems will be the death of all of us. Yeah, so I think, yeah, I don't know. My YouTube recommended is actually great because I ruthlessly like block channels. I ruthlessly block channels. I mark videos as not interested. And so my recommendation feed is actually full of like smaller YouTube devlogs, like smaller YouTube devloggers and like really valuable game dev content, and trying to minimize the slop on my recommended feed. And it generally is pretty good if you stay on top of it. But you watch one Mr. Beast video and it's all downhill from there. It all boils down to algorithm, really. Often find valuable videos on TikTok and brain rot on YouTube Shorts. Yes, yes, let the algorithm control you. Never made a video in my life, but actually sounds harder to make as a video. Nailing a software idea in 2 minutes sounds tense. It's hard, yeah. I mean, I've only created like a couple of short form videos, and it is very, very hard. It's hard in the same way that like Game Jam is hard. You just have this massive constraint on you, and it's hard to decide what is worth putting in the final product and what all needs to be cut. And the problem is, if you're going from a 10-minute video to a 2-minute video, that means the majority of it needs to be cut. And so it's very, very tricky to do. But anyway, let's get back to this. So in the process method here, I need to update all the card positions. So what I need to do probably is take the, I'm going to do board dot, nope. Let's do this. Var viewport local position is equal to owner dot to local card dot card node dot global position. And then we're going to do the mask sprite position is equal to viewport local position. Okay. So that should work. So we'll just iterate over all the cards and make sure their position, the mask sprite positions are updated to the cards position. Okay. Okay, so now we actually need to listen for I can get rid of this. Now I do need to keep track of the hovered card. So let's do this. Fade card selection in, fade card selection out. We're going to take that out. We're going to put this in here. Hard fade tween. We'll create a new tween for that, or I'll just copy from here. Card fade tween. Put that in there. Alrighty. Alrighty then. I'm going to get rid of this. Private void connect signals. We're going to need that callable drag began and stuff. So we'll grab all these things. Move this over here. Okay. This, I'm going to put a doo-doo here, enable card dimmer component. Okay. Reset state. Grab all these things. Remove that. What did I just copy? Oh yeah, we need to do, so we need to disconnect card signals. So connect signals, private void, disconnect signals. Okay. So when we enable this, we're going to need to connect signals. And then when we disable it, we're going to do disconnect signals. Okay. All right, moving on. Now this hovered card is going to be a problem. Grab all those out of here and put those signals down there. This needs to turn into owner. Owner. Then we need a hovered card. Okay, fade card selection out. So when we initialize this, initialize card masks, let's just do this in here. Fade color rect material dot set shader parameter progress to 0. And we're also going to do the same in here. So we're just going to make sure that that progress value is always reset in the shader whenever we call enable or disable. And then I also need to reset the hovered card when we disable it. I might as well just do it on enable and disable. So let's do hovered card is equal to null. Hovered card equals null. So we'll just do it in both places. I don't have any use for this remove card mask just yet. The problem is when a card gets transferred out of the inventory, I need to remove that card mask. So let's do base card here, card. Let's just connect to that just to have it. Connect card mouse events manager dot signal name dot card transferred. Callable from on card transferred. So I probably want to do this. Private callable card transferred. Let's assign that up here, I suppose. If from board is equal to owner.board inventory component, remove card mask. Card mask to sprite dot try get value. Card out var mask sprite sprite dot queue free. Card to mask sprite remove card. Okay. Now there is one problem here, which is that in the process here, what I'm going to need to do is I'll just have to do this. Mask sprite dot visible is equal to card is not equal to hovered card. Okay. Now I need to disconnect that. Okay, I think that works. Okay. Well, we're going to see how well this works, I suppose. I think I've moved everything over. So now in the alchemy container, I just got to fill in these to-dos now. So let's go to the board here. Let's make this publicly accessible. Public card dimmer component, card dimmer component. So in the alchemy container, what we're going to do in here is we will do board.cardDimmerComponent.enable. Then down here, disable. Well, you know what they say, YOLO. My YouTube homepage is mainly Minecraft, game dev, and music, and that's about it. YouTube shorts are just random memes and sometimes a place to find new music. There you go. Whenever I found a channel, Gonna go on a walk. Have a good day, everyone. All right, enjoy your walk, career games. Thanks for joining. I've seen some of the most impressive visuals in 2D games on TikTok game dev accounts. There's a surprising amount of incredibly talented developers with unique styles on there. Yeah, I believe it. I definitely believe it for sure. All right, I guess we'll see if this works. I'm guessing it won't, but we'll figure it out. Put this in the alchemy, put that in the alchemy. It broke again. The fading is not quite working. Also, I think I need to change this back. Get rid of this. Okay. Something isn't quite right here. I should probably move this back under the fade group component here. Oops. Oh, I need to mark this as unique name, I think. Is that working? Let me just check my remote scene tree and make sure everything got cleaned up correctly. Where am I supposed to look? I forgot. Not in game map. Event camera. Drawer UI. Alchemy drawer, margin container. Here we go. Our dimmer component mask viewport. Yeah, the mask viewport does not have any children, which is great. So let me try it again. Probably want to try it with larger cards as well. So let's do that. Let's do project settings, debug, enable test player cards. Let's do skeleton dragon, skeleton mage, incense. What else? Axe. This is a YouTuber who makes music that is both good and chaotic. Oh, very nice. Oh. I think that's working. Cool. So it's basically not functionally different, but if I go remote tree, oh, do I have to do all that again? I think I can look for mask viewport here. Why do I have two mask viewports? Oh, I guess it's fine. Actually, let's just look for the alchemy container. Alchemy drawer, here we go. So we should see that the mask viewport has two sprites there now, which is very nice. And if I remove this, those get freed. Excellent. And now it's set to invisible, and this should have a render update mode of disabled. Awesome, and it should not be processing either. Can I tell if it's not processing here? Maybe not. Anyway. So functionally, this is not working any differently than how it was working. However, this is now a genericized component that exists on every board. So now any board that I need to only allow one selection from, like for the combat rewards, I should be able to just enable this component and then it will just automatically work. So I'm hoping that's true. And I was able to clean up a lot of my alchemy container code, which is nice. So yeah, I think now the next step is to just get that combat reward selection working, where the player will get a choice of one of 3 cards after each combat that they can choose. But yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and let's see. So this should basically be, yeah, I think these should all be good changes to make. Okay. Move board dimming to component. Excellent. Well, like I said, there's always a solution through. My initial attempts with my back buffer copy were not working, so that works just fine. We'll keep that in place until I find a reason why that becomes a problem, and then we'll rework it again. But for now, it's working, and I think I can use it for my next objective. So that's good. But anyway, it is time for me to go and eat lunch. A little bit of a longer stream today, but that's good because I wanted to get this done. This was bothering me ever since last night, but now, hopefully, knock on wood, it should be smooth sailing with respect to getting those combat reward card selections working. But that's it for the stream today. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. And again, oh no. And again, you can visit Alchemy Mortis on Steam. Wishlist it if you are so inclined. I would very much appreciate that. You can also support the game on Patreon. You can join the Discord as well if you want to check that out. And you can buy one of my courses. Every way that you could support me is linked in the description below, so definitely check it out if you're interested in doing so. And I will see you all back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, where we will be continuing working on just everything that I've got going on. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.